Okay, it's time to do our trolling motor mods, and I got started a little bit without you guys. Started pulling some stuff apart here. Pulled the motor head apart. We're not going to use the motor head anymore, or this particular speed control. I've got another one that I'm going to use, but I do want to salvage the power cord out of this motor head. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is I'm slowly pulling this apart so that I can get the power cord out of it. Then we're going to move on to the next stage of this. But I just wanted to show you kind of inside these in case you're afraid to pull it apart. 3 screws, pulled the head off. The inside of this is a water snake, but every one I've had apart is basically the same thing inside. Handle here, your motor control here, handle just comes into it. And they are typically mechanically limited somewhere, probably that or underneath here on this one. These controllers will just go all the way around. You can just keep clicking them all the way around. So the stops, when you click this, 5 going forward, 3 going backward, the stops are in here typically. There's some type of retainer in here. Depending on the motor, they're a little bit different depending on the brand, but it's mechanically limited in this, in the handle. Here's what I'm using for the cap on here. Now on this particular motor, I don't know if you'll run into this on all of them, I wanted to use the bolt holes that were there to actually run a bolt through this and give it a mechanical connection. I think it's a very important safety feature to have a bolt through here, because if anything comes loose in the rest of your retaining system on your motor, if you don't have a solid bolt through here, you can lose your whole motor head, slide right out of the bottom of your bracket here if anything comes loose. So I think it's very important to have the retaining bolt that goes through the shaft. Well, to make this coupler and shaft work, I actually had to ended up having to drill a new set of holes in there. The other thing I'm going to show you, I built this little retainer here to hold my wires. These are the wires that are going to run, the extended wires that are going to run down to my control box. This is a 1-inch PVC slip fitting on this end. It's a 1/2 inch threaded on this end. This here was a 1/2 inch threaded plug. I drilled it to just the size that I needed for my little wiring harness here, to put a piece of shrink tube on it to give it a nice place to seal. And then I actually epoxied, just filled that with some epoxy. So this will be great retaining system for my wires. I mean, I'm not going to come out of there. And then what I'll be able to do is slip all this together and screw this in to this fitting, make my connections, fit everything in, run the bolt through there, and this will be my my retaining system and my cap to keep water out of here. Okay, here's today's first installment of y'all thinking I've lost my marbles. But if this works, I think it's a pretty cool idea. We'll see how well it works, and of course I'll let you know if it was dumb and didn't work. Trolling motor, you see wire on here. I've got my fish finder transducer mounted to the trolling motor. It's a great way to mount your transducer, just a hose clamp. In fact, most kits come with a hose clamp that you can just mount into the motor head like this down here. So it's mounted down here. If you know anything about transducers, they come with about 30 feet of cable, and there's no way to really shorten this cable. It's quite the process because it's shielded. You got to get the shielding right. You got all the little tiny solder splices right. So it's really difficult to shorten these cables. So you end up needing to store 30 feet of cable to go between wherever your transducer's mounted and your fish finder head unit. So this is what I decided to do. Right down here on the bottom of my motor shaft, I just went ahead and coiled all that wire up down there. Got a zip tie on each end, kind of holding it in that coil. This may cause an impedance issue may mess with the signal. Having it spiraled like that, I'll find out. If it does, like I say, I'll let you know. But I think this is going to work really well. Then I went and got a piece of this is 2-inch shrink tube. So I'm just going to slide this shrink tube up on here like that, and I'm going to cover all that wire up with this piece of shrink tubing here. I'm going to shrink this down on here. I'll show you the final result, and like I say, once I get this out on the water and using it, I'll let you know if this actually worked. Okay, prepped to do the wiring here, and I made a decision that's probably not going to be, may win me more enemies than friends, but I am a crimper. I don't solder these kind of connections. I prefer good solid crimp connection on something that's going to be inside out of sight, out of mind. I prefer it to be crimped rather than soldered. Your preference, do it however you want, but I prefer crimped. So we got crimp connectors on there. Also, I ran, you can see my wires here are all both red and black, and I've got blue and yellow going down here. So I did grab my my marking tape and taped both ends of these to mark them as the blue and yellow, and these as the red and black. So that's, and they're marked on the other end as well. And looking at this motor, so the supply lines, the battery cables are a 10 gauge cable. But in here, it looks like the red and black are 12 gauge, and the blue and yellow going down are actually 14 gauge. I'm running all 12 here. And this is good quality, all copper, none of that copper clad aluminum garbage. This is good quality copper. It's also got marine grade jackets on it to keep it protected. I am going to loom this together after we get this end done. But that's where we're at here. So well, it's crow eating time. That was a complete failure. Here's version 1.0, been removed completely from the whole process here. Version 2.0, there was just no way I was getting those wires. It's just, there's barely space in there for one set of wires, let alone to fold it back over and scrunch another set of wires in there. So yeah, it all came apart. Cut this section out, got everything shorter, redid all my connections, redid the shrink tube there. Not quite as secure as this one is, but with the epoxy setting in there, it'll be fine. It'll be just fine. Got my bolt in place, got everything in place here. This is much less take apartable than it was before because it's all kind of, I had to kind of pull everything together and then epoxy it, but it may take a little more doing to undo than had this worked out correctly. But I always show you my mistakes when I make them because they get made whether people want to admit it or not. I'll admit it to you when I make a mistake. So I got another batch of epoxy curing there. The wiring's done. All right, get you guys in here so hopefully you can see what I'm working on here. This is my box I'm going to use for the control box portion of this build. I'm just going to buzz the screws out here. These are it's just a project box you can get from Amazon. They're usually like PVC or ABS plastic or whatever, but they are watertight, got a nice seal in here, and a bunch of little parts I've acquired, accumulated over the last little bit here to do this build. This here is a motor control. This one's actually out of an old motor guide motor. It's same thing that you get that's in these. It's a little older version. I'm using this one for a couple of reasons. One, I had it out and could take it out and clip all my wires, that kind of thing, get it set up. The other thing, I'm going to take this cap off here. Oh, little knob I got. This is the other thing. Find a knob to fit on this. It's just a 1/4 inch shaft, D shaft underneath here. Take that off. That's what's underneath most of your controllers. It's just a 1/4 inch shaft. This doesn't have to be a D shaft that I can put a nice place for a lock screw on there. But the reason I'm using this one, the main reason, as you can see here, this has got threads on it. That's an M12 bolt with threads that I can use. That's going to make mounting this to my box super simple. So that's why I'm using this one as opposed to the one that's in the motor itself. The ones that are in the motor, they don't have this little different design here on top, most of the modern ones of these controllers. But this one's going to work out real well because I have that, work real nice to retain it on there. The downside to this is inside my case here, I don't have any way of keeping this from spinning really. So I got to get a little bit creative with how I do that. The other thing I'm doing is I'm actually going to use this box upside down. You got lid and the case. I'm actually going to put everything in what would be the base of this. And the reason being is everything fits up in here nice. I can build all of this up inside here and then just put the lid on. If I did it the other way, if I put everything in the lid, I'd have some things in the lid, some things coming through the side of the case. Just wouldn't, it's not as easy, clean. This is going to keep a little cleaner because I'll be able to mount this in here, put all my wire connections and everything through this side, keep everything in this, and then just put the lid on it. Okay, so I've determined that if I get this right in this corner like this, it will it fits in there real nice and stays nice and stable. It's braced by both the sides of the box. And then to mark the hole where I want to drill it, I use a little trick here. I dab the end of my shaft with a little bit of grease. So now I'm going to take this and just line it up in here where I want it to sit. Try to get everything squared where I want it, and then I'm just going to slide this down in, and you guys probably won't be able to see that in there, but dotted a little daub of grease in there where you can, right on the end of the shaft. So now I'm going to take my ratchet punch and go right in the center of my circle that I did there and mark that with a ratchet punch so that now it's permanent. And I got a good mark down in there I can work with now. Now I'm just going to drill out a 1/4 inch hole for that shaft and see how it fits. See if I got my marking close enough there to the hole, or to the corner, that it's going to brace that box well enough. And then if everything worked right, this will work out real nice. Let's drill this hole real quick. Okay, so I just punched that out to a 1/4 inch for the shaft, just to make sure that whole alignment is going to work, and I think that'll work out just fine. So now I need to punch that out to about whatever diameter that is. Should be about 12 millimeter. But I'll punch that out so that the threads will now pop through. Okay, bring you guys up here real quick. One thing I forgot to account for when I was switched this over to putting this in the base instead of the lid. There's some little castings down in here. I don't know if you can see them very well, but they're little bosses that you put screws in and mount stuff actually in the bottom here. There were 2 of these right up here that were interfering with my controller going in there, and I kind of got lucky with one and not so lucky with the other, so I removed those. But this one here that's still in there actually fits right in the corner of this when I drop it down in there, and actually going to help me retain it in the right spot. Alright, so after a little bit of messing around here, I'm going to ditch the nut. I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to epoxy this in place. It's going to be permanent. These boxes are cheap. Controllers are cheap. If I have to redo this, I'll redo it. But that's where the twist knob is going to sit on this. The other thing I wanted in here is, I got my speed control, but I wanted a quick on-off switch. I've been in situations where I don't want to mess with twisting the knob and getting it back to 0 or going into reverse accidentally or whatever, go on and off. So I've got this switch. This is a I think it's a 50 amp switch. It's a heavy duty switch, so it'll handle the current that's running through here no problem. But I'm actually going to mount this on-off switch right here next to my twist knob in the box. It's going to mount right about, I think right there is what I'm going to do. And put this heavy duty on off switch. So that's the next thing. And I probably saw when I had this apart, when I harvested this out of the old motor I chucked, I left myself plenty of wires here. So I've got a little pigtail of the original 10 gauge wire that's running up to the hot here. I'm just going to put these have got good screw terminals on it, so I'm just going to put an eyelet on that and get it set in here. Looks like, let's see, get it twisted right. Upside down here. It's going to go in the box about right there. While we're talking here, let's talk about the other side of this connection. So here's another connector. Again, Scamazone's a great place to find random connectors. This is a 40 amp 4-prong. You can see there, 4-prong connector. Like I said, rated for 40 amps, and it's actually waterproof. It's something that they use in the aviation industry, apparently, this style plug. I don't know. But it'll plug together here. It's keyed to only go together one way. And then it actually has, once you plug it in, it actually has a retaining ring that you can tighten down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the pigtail from my motor. I'm going to run it into this end so that I have a nice, easy, quick disconnect so that I can, if my unscrew things here, so that this will unplug and I can unplug my motor directly from the case here. So that it's easy to take the motor off the boat if I need to, but my control box will actually still live on the boat. So, overcomplicating things, yes, you could just drill a hole, run your wires into it, but wanted to do that just because. And then I'll run the pigtail, harvested the pigtail out of that water snake motor. It's got a great retention gland that came out with it. I'm going to reuse that, use that to retain my my power, and got an Anderson plug on the other end that'll plug onto my motor. So I can just unplug this off the battery, take the battery off, unplug the trolling motor here, take the trolling motor off, and the control box will just stay on the boat. All right, this will likely come as no surprise, but missed hitting the record button there for some of that. But so there's how that's going to sit. Control knob here, on-off switch, just a simple on-off switch there. And then I'm going to run the cabling in from this side. So as we flip this over, I'm going to have, this side's got the switch, so I'll have the power cable coming into this side. This side's going to be the motor control. I'll have it coming in basically right here. So I marked out a location for a couple of holes here on the back, or on the end of this box. So now I'm just going to punch this out. I got a big old stepper bit here. Okay, and there's drilled out for that plug. I just can go deburr, clean these up a little bit, and got to drill some small holes here. This is mounted with a bolt. You can get these two styles. You get one with a retaining ring or mounted with 4 screws. I preferred the 4 screws. I think it'll be a little more solid mount on there. But now you can see how that's coming together. That'll just be on the back of the pontoon, or on the back of the control right there. Be able to plug that in. But clean up these holes a little bit and move on to the next step. All right, I was working, getting here towards final assembly, and realized there was one more thing I haven't really talked about with you guys. Last little bit of this installation. I've got a little fish finder on the front of the boat. You know, I've got, we did transducer mount on the motor, but I've got power I need to get to power that little fish finder on the front. And I'm going to use this box. I've got direct battery supply power here in the box. So here's my trolling motor powered cable. And before I do the final assembly, here's our power coming in from our battery. I'm just going to put the trolling motor connector, the fish finder connections right here on these connectors that I'm doing for my battery, hot, and ground. Okay, there we go. And to retain, didn't really talk about this, just drilled another little small hole here, just big enough for the wire to slip through. I'll put a little silicone on that, seal it up. And then to give me a little retention in there, I've got just a zip tie, and I'm just going to zip tie around the wire to give me a little protection, keep that cable from pulling out of the box. So it's just zip tied in down there, and we'll trim that off. And I made sure to drill that way down deep inside there where it won't interfere with anything that's going together. It'll kind of fit right between the two right there. And then the other thing I did, oh, you guys weren't watching, I tinned the ends of all these wires. These are going to go into our plug here. They're going to go in the plug. They screw in from the side, so it's a screw that screws into the side of the wire. So I tinned all these to give them a little better connection when you do that. Cool thing about this plug is on the front, it's actually labeled on the front of the plug with pin numbers, and labeled on the other end on the plug with pin numbers. So it's going to be a lot easier getting everything, not mixing and matching or cross wiring our plug there, because it's labeled real nice. I'm going to start working on final assembly here. I'm going to mix up some epoxy to hold this in place, get some silicone to seal up some of these holes before I do. This actually has a real nice gasket on it, so I'm not worried about that one. This one's a nice watertight gland, not really worried about that one. But the holes for my switches coming out the top here, seal those with a little bit of silicone just to make them a little more splash resistant. They're not going to be waterproof by any means, simply because, well, this switch isn't waterproof. I can get a little waterproof cover for it, and I might do that, but if it poses a problem. But I do want to at least seal it up as best I can to keep some splashing and that kind of stuff out of here. Okay, when it comes to this guy, do yourself a favor, get the one with the retaining ring. Those 4 little screws was a pain in the butt. But got that attached in there. Right side, nope, of course I'm off 90 degrees. It's staying there, don't care at this point. Yeah, off 90 degrees from what I wanted, don't care. Not a big deal, and it's staying. So I got my switch hooked up. I'm going to get it put in place in here. Got our switch in place in there. One point or another, that switch will be in there where I want it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, switch in there where we want it. Plug in there where we want it. Now we need to set our motor control in there. And I did go in with some rough sandpaper, some 60 grit, rough up the surface here and rough up the surface here just to give myself a little better mechanical bite. And then the epoxy I'm using is plastic bonder, so it should actually bond these two pieces together pretty slick. So, point of no return now. And I say that like it's super dramatic. This is like a $20 part. This case is about $18, so not exactly the end of the world if things don't go how I want them to here. And the rest of the parts in here are completely salvageable. So just get some epoxy on there, set our mess out of the way. Now get all our cords and everything bent the way we want them to, wires. Make sure it's setting all the way down in there. And I can only just barely get a nut on this outside. But I'm going to put that on there, hold it till the epoxy dries. Alright, get you guys in here, show you where I'm at. Got the motor back over here. This is our transducer cable that's coming down from the motor head. It's coming up. This is the braided wire loom. It's one piece. You have to thread everything through it. So I spent about the last few minutes here threading my wires all the way through. Right now what I've got is I've got my loom. I've got everything through the loom, added, like I said, transducer cable. Now I'm going to shrink tube all this down. I got to go refill, got to go refill my torch, so I'll be back. Okay, coming down the home stretch here. So, got everything loomed together. So what I did, piece of shrink tube around just my wires that I'm going to use here. That will give me a nice place for my connector. It's got a nice watertight gland on it here. We're going to cinch down on that. And then a little bit here so I can kick out my trolling motor, or my transducer. So that'll go up to fish finder. And now what we need to do is take all this and get our cable wired on there. So one other thing I want to talk about on the trolling motor here, you can see this little handle I put on here. There's a couple of reasons. Typically on the boat, I use the motor going in reverse, so I don't steer with the motor. I actually steer with my fins in the water. So I don't really need to turn the motor, but occasionally I do. And I also wanted something on there that could kind of give me a little better direction of what the motor's pointed. So the bolt that I put through here to hold the elbow on, I just found one of these knobs. It's just $1.20. Actually, I had to get a 2-pack. So it's just a little plastic knob screwed on the end of the bolt there to give me a little bit of a handle. So I reach back, I don't have to use the plastic here. I can grab hold of the handle, turn the motor if I need to. One of those little additional things you don't really need to do, but thought it might work well, and looks like it's going to. So on to the rest of the wiring here. All right, we are far enough along here for a test drive. You can see cable fixed or finished here, hooked up. Got the power coming out. Power comes over here. This is the battery I use, just Anderson connector on my battery. Back over here, trolling motor is mounted on a sawhorse. You can see here's the knob. We're currently off on our switch, so knob does nothing. Turn our switch on, and hey, look at that. 2, 3. Oh, that's reverse. So that was 3 in reverse. Here's forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in forward. So knob is, and then here's the other thing. There is an off position because, like I say, these spin all the way around. There is an off position, and now I can go, it would be high in reverse or high and forward if you wanted to do it that way as well. But we'll come around here. So that's, for example, set on 3, and then if we want to shut it off, we can just flip our switch real easy, shut it off, and then flip it back on. We're back in motion on speed 3 and don't have to go worrying about twisting our knob to go on and off. Okay, let's talk quickly about how we're going to mount this whole contraption on the pontoon boat. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these. These are called PVC. They're called saddle tees. And what they're designed to do is if you need to add a branch to a PVC pipe circuit, you can, and you can't get to the ends or cut or whatever, you can actually take these, glue them up real good, and you snap them over the pipe, and it actually snaps over the pipe like that. And once your glue's set, you can drill down through the center of them and open up your circuit. This one's made for 1-inch pipe, 1-inch PVC. This happens to snap just beautifully over the tubing on most of your pontoon boats. You make these in a couple different sizes, and depending on your tubing size, you probably find one of these that perfectly snaps over the tubing for you. And make a real simple, slick way to mount things to your pontoon without having to drill holes. And if they're a little bit loose, I've modified these a little bit. Actually clamp it in a vise, put a little pressure on it, and then take a torch or a heat gun or something, heat it up a little bit, and you can pinch this together just enough to get it to fit a little more firm on the boat. Did that with the fish finder mount, actually, that's on the boat right now. That's how I mounted it. But I did this one. It's got a 1/2-inch male iron pipe fitting on this side, and then what I did is I went and got a plug, that same 1/2-inch iron pipe plug that'll plug this. And then what you can do is you can drill it and put a bolt up through it. Well, on this particular one, I decided I would use the T here to hold on to it while I drilled it, and the drill bit caught, and it drove that iron pipe fitting in there. It's permanent. There was no getting it out. I mangled the crap out of it with a pair of pliers and everything I could think of trying to get it to unscrew out of there. So scratched my head a little bit about, was already upset about having to go to Lowe's to get one of these because I was one short due to my wiring debacle earlier in the video. So I had to go to Lowe's to get one of those and didn't want to go back and get more parts. So I did what any red-blooded American would do. I improvised, and I just stuck the bolt in there and filled it up with epoxy. It's actually going to be a better mount. I just didn't want to waste all that epoxy on that when you can just simply put a bolt through there and a nut on it and clamp it in place, and you screw everything down and it mounts just fine. But that's what we're going to use, called a saddle tee. And now here, this is the cover to our box. This is the smaller side, considered the cover, obviously. Like I said, we're doing that upside down. We build everything inside, so the control is actually now upside down in the box. It should sit this way with the cover going on it, but this worked out way better to be able to just build everything inside the deeper box. And then it'll sit down on here this way, and screws will come up from the bottom. You can see these holes right here for the screws. They're outside the sealed part of this. The gasket actually runs inside all of this, so it'll still stay sealed even though you can see these little holes on the top. They'll just drain out the bottom. But anyway, here's our lid that's going to be our base for that, and our saddle tee with a bolt in it. I went out on the boat to see kind of where this will fit the best, and turns out basically right in the middle. I'm going to drill a hole right there in the middle and bolt that on, and then we'll go out and this will just snap over the bar. When I get that done, I'll show you where I'm mounting this. It's going to be right next to the seat on the boat. But yeah, anyway, got to drill that, bolt it together, and then we're almost there. All right, everybody, not often I get to go fish before I edit a video, but I got to do that on this one. So we're out on the lake right now. I'll wrap this up from here. I did forget my tripod, though, so let me flip this around. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. All right, flipped around on here. You can see the motor, battery, everything mounted. You see how that turned out. Motor up here. This works out excellent, having this extra handle on here for when I need it. Also helps give me something, give me something else to grab instead of grabbing the wire there. Battery and battery box. Did lose my lid, so it is what it is. And here's where the control box, I guess, is mounted. You can see battery connection here. This is our pigtail cable we made going up to our motor. Put the box there thinking that was the best. It 100% was tucked all the way back there. So I'm going to make that permanent down under here. You saw the saddle clamp that we used, or saddle tee. I'm just going to put a hose clamp around this to solidify this a little bit better there. Now that I'm happy with it, then you can see transducer cable running up to a little fish finder there. With this back here, about the only thing I'm going to do is probably take another foot or so out of that cable to just shorten it up, clean up the cables there a little bit. But this works perfect. You can see in the off position, flip the switch on, nothing happens. I turned it to position 2 there. If I flip the switch, whoa, there goes the boat, gonna get away from me. But having that, wasn't sure I needed that on-off switch there. It was just kind of a convenience. 100% recommend that. It is so nice to be able to just reach down, flip that on and off when you need to, not have to worry about twisting a knob, resetting to a speed, anything like that. Just flip on and off. I was concerned about the tall switch. I wanted it to be easy to access. I thought maybe I'd have to go to more of a rocker style switch, but nope. This is 100%. Love that style. It's so easy to just reach down there and hit it with your hand. You don't have to fumble around, anything like that. Overall, couldn't be happier with how that turned out. There, give you kind of a view of the rod holders, everything that we've done in the last couple videos there. But yeah, thrilled to death with the boat and the way it turned out. Okay, reached out there and tipped that motor up so you can see down there on the bottom where I wrapped all my extra transducer cable. I was concerned that that might cause some induction or some interference or something like that. No problems whatsoever. Fish finder works just fine. And I highly recommend a solution like that for your extra wire, so it doesn't end up just wadded up in some bundle of zip ties and tangles and stuff somewhere on your boat you have to fight with. All that extra transducer cables wrapped around down there and worked out. I couldn't be happier with that solution. So like I said, happy as can be with that. I hope you guys enjoyed that one, and we'll catch you on the next one.